Thank you for joining me as we discuss the various definitions or aspects of the fear of God. Today I'd like to talk about our attitude towards sin. And in the context of us wanting to have confidence from a clear conscience, this is very, very relevant. In Proverbs 3 verse 7 it says, "Do not be wise in your own eyes, fear God and depart from evil." Proverbs 8 verse 13 gives us a definition, a very simple one. It says, the fear of God is to hate evil. The fear of God is to hate sin. There you have it. Proverbs 16 verse 6 says, by mercy and truth iniquity is purged, and by the fear of the Lord men depart from evil. In Job 1 verse 1 it says, Job was blameless and upright, a man who feared God and avoided or shunned evil. In Job 1 verse 8, God repeats that and he says to Satan, have you regarded Job, who is upright and blameless, a man who fears God and shuns evil? So the fear of the Lord is to hate sin. We need to avoid it like a plague. Imagine if you were going for a walk in a field somewhere and you came across a blob of fresh cow dung. Now, you wouldn't play with it. You wouldn't mess around with it. You'd avoid it. You'd circumvent it. You'd run from it. Now, our attitude towards sin should be much stronger like that. We should be repulsed. It should be repugnant for us that we avoid, we run from sin. Now, the whole idea, if you fear God and hate sin, the bottom line is this: you don't willingly and willfully do the things you hate doing. If you hate it, you won't do it. For example, think of a domestic chore you don't enjoy doing. Maybe you don't, it's not as strong as hate, but you don't enjoy doing it. You're not going to use all your free time to do that domestic chore. Or think of a foodstuff that you don't like eating. You're not going to eat that stuff every single meal. For example, as a kid, I never enjoyed cabbage and spinach. I reluctantly ate it, and I never willingly and willfully ate it. Even to this day, and I'm almost 68 years old, I can promise you, and if I had a Bible to hand, I'd lay my hand on the Bible and say, I can promise you I've never ever stolen one cabbage or one spinach plant from anybody. And I've never even been tempted to. Now, I wish I could say that about all sin. The idea is, if we hate it, we won't do it. Now, when it comes to sin, nobody forces sin upon us. We sin because we like it, because we want to. We are not forced to sin. Now, you might be influenced by the bright lights of entertainment. You might be influenced by the temptation of the evil one and succumb to same temptation. You might even be influenced by your fallen nature and allow your fallen nature again to surface. Now, remember, we have a redeemed nature. We have a restored nature. And your fallen nature is in the shadows. Don't allow that center place again. The issue is when you sin because you want to, not because you have to. And if you hated it, you wouldn't do it because you don't do the things that you hate doing. So we need to ask God to put the fear of God upon us so that we can avoid evil, so that we can shun evil, so we can run from evil and avoid sinning. Now, if the fear of God is to hate sin, the question is, we talked about, does Satan hate sin? No, he doesn't hate sin. He likes it. He created it. He wants us to sin. So Satan doesn't have the fear of God upon him as we should have. Satan doesn't respect God's holiness. Now, when we think of the other definitions of the fear of God is to reverence God. Obviously, if we hate sin, that's reverential towards God. That's respecting his holiness. And the fear of God being wisdom, or the beginning of wisdom. Of course, if we fear God and hated sin, that's a wise thing to do. So let's trust God, and may we have more of the fear of God upon us so that we can reverence and respect God, so we can walk in wisdom that comes from the fear of God, and so that we can hate, especially those things we find ourselves wanting to hate sin and avoid evil. God bless you.